down to the right for me, please. Pass them down to the right. Pass them down to the right. You need a writing utensil and something to write on, please. You need a writing utensil and something to write on. Everything is quiet. Everything is quiet the whole time. When you are done, flip it over, leave it on your lap. Take one, pass it down. Remember, first and last names, ladies and gents. First and last names. Today's date is September, thank you, 27. September 27. Keep it nice and quiet the whole time. Take one, pass it down. Okay, go ahead and pass them all the way to your right, please. Ooh, Titus.
My brain goes better if I could finish.
Let's do this thing where we make sure everything is good, 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 good. I'm really excited to see these dinosaur heads.
It's my dad.
Brandon. Okay, pass your last name, please. Yep, first and last, that's why I say that, first and last. Oh, I see good things drawn on here. Cool. What's your last name on there? Thank you. Okay, ladies and gents, are you excited?
No.
Yes.
What?
Yes.
Okay, are you with me, Luke?
Yeah.
Are you alive?
Yeah.
Okay, cool. So today, what we're going to do is we're going to kind of build on what we've already talked about with the treble clef. Now, the really cool thing that I saw happening as you were doing this was that I saw some people, I don't know if that's enough, I'm just throwing darts here, throwing darts. Feels like about enough, right? Guys, it's okay to smile. I know. Thursday morning, it's a rough kind of day, that's okay, hang in there. Okay, so when you get this, in that top right-hand corner, go ahead and put your first and last name. Today's date is the 27th, September 27th. So today we're going to build on what we've already talked about with the treble clef. This was the cool thing that I saw happen with the treble clef. I'm going to move this out of the way so that I can rock and roll. I saw people doing this. And this. That's super awesome. Do you know why that's super awesome? Because not everybody has had this. And it's okay to write that on there. I have no problem with it. Need some help? Write it on there. It'll make life a whole lot easier. So what they did is they said, okay, all the notes that live on these lines, and the which clef are we talking about? Treble clef, also known as the G clef. All those notes live right on the lines, right? Line, 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 line. These notes all live on the spaces in between all those lines. So that is perfectly acceptable to write all of that. Yes, sir. Oh, extra. Oh my goodness, extras everywhere. Back this one. All right, so we're going to talk about a new clef today. The bass clef. Now, ladies and gents, this is not pronounced the bass clef. This is not a fish. This is pronounced like the instrument, a bass. Capiche? Y'all awake there, Tabby? Not really. But your outfit is rocking today. Is your outfit more awake than you are? Probably. That's okay. You'll get that in the midstream. Okay. So when we talk about the bass clef, it's exactly the same as the treble clef, sort of. We still have how many lines? 5. We still have how many spaces? 4. But now our notes have shifted a little bit. They've shifted just a little bit. So when we have our bass clef, go ahead and look at that page there for me. First thing we got to do is put that bass clef on there. So just like the treble clef, we call what's the other name? G clef. The bass clef also has a second name. It's also called the F clef. It's also called the F clef. And the reason for that, you know, the treble clef has that little curly Q on the G line. Same thing here. It starts with a little doobly-doo, and that line is F. Dot, dot. Now, when you make these little bass clefs here, you have to have the dots. And they have to go in the top 2 spaces on either side of the line. That's just how it is, okay? So, on your sheet, go ahead and trace those first 3 ones, and then you get to draw 5 more of your own. How exciting is that?
Very exciting.
I thought so. 5 whole more bass clefs. So, put the little dot there, up and around, down. Dot, dot. Little circle, up and around, down. Dot, dot. Little circle, up and around, down.
Hey, I'm actually doing it pretty good.
Dot, dot. These are easier than the treble clefs. Treble clefs, you got wiggle to the right, wiggle to the left, wiggle to the right, curly Q.
Those are not hard though. They just look too sad.
Sure. Okay, so go ahead and put your little bass clefs in there. Okay, now when we start to name notes, where the notes are named on the lines of spaces have changed just a little bit, but not that much. We're still following our 2 patterns. This is our line, space, line, space, line, space, and so far. We're also still following our pattern of A, B, keep going, E, F, G, A.
A.
Yes, because then we repeat. A, B, C,
A.
la, 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 la.
A.
Now, if we were to go 1 before this A, what would this be?
G.
1 before
I
A.
mean E. F. G.
1 before A.
G. We got there.
1 before G. 1 before F.
E.
Okay? Same thing in both directions. Okay, so we already know one of the lines. We already know that this line right here is going to be an F. Why? Because we call it the F clef, right? So we already know that. That's going to be kind of our little bit of a giveaway. Good morning. How are you today? Excellent. Okay, so we're still following these same patterns of line, space, line, space. Hey, Colton, you want to find my keys and open it up back there for Lily? Thank you. Lily, you can grab your regular U today because we're not using any classes. Okay, so we're following line, space, line, space. So we're already on a line, so we need to go to the next space, right? So what comes after F in our pattern?
G.
G is going to come after in our pattern. What comes after G? We need a line?
A.
A.
Wait,
Cool. Yes, sir.
I'm lost.
Okay, so this line right here, we already know that's an F
How?
because I've told you that.
Just because?
Just because.
It's just like
Because what do we call this? We call this a bass clef or the
Basically.
bass clef or the, what's the other name for it, guys? The F clef. Why do we call it the F clef? Because this little dot right here lives on this line, which is F. Which is F, okay? So that's how we know what our starting point is right here. Okay, so we've gone up. Now we have to go down and backwards. We're still following the line, space pattern. But now we're going 1 before F. What's 1 before F?
E.
E. 1 before E.
E.
D. What's 1 before D?
6.
C. What's 1 before C? B. 1 before B. A. 1 before A. G. So whenever we follow this pattern, we go from the bottom to the top. It's just like, guys, it's just like when we have the treble clef. We follow the same pattern. 5 lines. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Treble clef. We go to the right, we go to the left, curve, two. Okay.
before the
We don't-
microphone.
Come on. Better?
No.
No? You want like a,
Yeah.
ugh, that? Little one. There we go. Okay, so we already know that we call this the treble clef or
G.
the G clef, right? So we know that this line is a G because we call it the G clef. That's where our curly Q centers on. So then we do this exact same thing. We follow the pattern lines and spaces. So line is G, space is A, line is, follow the pattern, B, space, C, line, D, space, E, line. Cool, now we have to go backwards. So 1 before G, is going to be an F on the space. One before F on the line, E. We always go, when we follow the A, B, C, D, E, F, G pattern, bottom to top. A, B, C, E, F, G. Okay? Always following that pattern going from bottom to top. So when we look at the bass clef, we need something to help us remember. Something to help us remember. Bass clef. Oh, look at this. Good boys do fine always. Awesome. So let's write that in. Good.
Boys die always.
Oh my goodness.
Good boys die.
Good boys do. We gotta keep one happy, guys. Hey
Why?
guys, I gotta record the class. Don't give our secrets away. Good boys do
Good.
fine always. So that's these are our lines. Lines. Do you have this written down on your paper? Find a spot to write this down on your paper. Good boys do fine always. Lines are good boys do fine always. So then when we come over here and we have our lines, everyone writing this down on their paper, good boys do fine always. Good, line, 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 line. So Grace, all you need to know right now, lines on the bass clef, G, B, D, F, A. You with me so far? Okay, I'll take you to middle C, I promise. We just aren't
Well,
there
no,
quite
I
yet.
know middle C. That's why I'm getting confused. Cause like C's
Shh. I'm going to cut you off because I don't want you to confuse anyone else. I will explain where middle C is, okay? You trust me?
Yes.
Okay. So, we need another one. This is my favorite one out of all of them. Tabby.
No, it's
It is amazing. The spaces. Shh. It's got cows in it. All cows eat grass because cows go moo. Do you know when I was like 3 years old, my mom drove me from Wisconsin to Michigan? And do you know what I did? Every time I saw cows, I went, look, cows! Cows go moo! I drove from Wisconsin to Pasadena and back a couple years ago to go to the Rose Bowl. Guys, you can grab your regular ukes. Lily's in back.
Hey, look, these little
And all the way from Wisconsin to Pasadena. Do you know what I did every time I saw cows? Look, cows go moo. Now you are always going to remember the spaces. All cows eat grass. All cows with me eat grass together. All gentlemen,
Oh.
turn around. Turn around.
Cows eat
Thank you.
carcasses.
That says all cars eat grass. I
Wow.
know what it says.
Cars eat gas.
All cows eat grass.
I thought it said cars eat
Nope. Okay, so our lines we have written somewhere on your page, go ahead and write spaces. All cows eat grass. So these are our spaces, but these are only used for the bass clef. Only used for the bass clef. Remember, every good boy does fine. Every good boy does fine. And what do we use for the spaces?
Face.
Face. Face for the spaces. And those you only use for the treble clef. These you only use for the bass clef. Whenever you're naming notes, you always have to ask yourself, what clef am I in? Am I in treble clef or am I in the bass clef? Yes, sir.
Is there a different musical sheet? Because this one doesn't have the tab.
Yes.
Ah, yeah, yeah.
Yep. Okay, questions on the bass clef here. Wonderful. On the bottom of your sheet then, under number 2 and number 3, go ahead and write those bass clefs right at the beginning. Bass clefs right at the beginning. Number 2 and number 3 on the front of the sheet. Number 2 and number 3 on the front of the sheet, write the bass clefs in. The bass clefs in. I'm sorry, oh, that's wrong. Both of those should be bass clefs. Bass clefs on both of those. Bass clefs on both of those. I would love you to. Bass clefs. Bass clefs. Bass clefs. Bass clefs. That is incorrect. You should change it to bass clef. Bass clef. Bass clef. Do you hear my words? Change it to bass clef. 2 and 3 should both read. Draw a bass clef. Draw a bass clef.
Draw a base.
Draw a bass clef. Draw a bass clef. So I can tell you I should be monitoring this.
Yeah, you should.
Bass clef, okay? Then across number 2, you are going to name the notes underneath. Name the notes. Go ahead and do that right now, and we're going to check them. Name the notes underneath. Name the notes underneath. Then on number 3, if you get done with number 2, you can go ahead and start drawing notes on. Remember, when you draw notes on, when you draw these notes on, the space notes have to go from line to line, and the line notes have to go from space to space. Line notes have to go from space to space. Space notes go from line to line. None of that garbage. None of that. Yep, that's perfect. None of that.
I'm gonna get yelled at. I don't wanna get yelled at.
What are we doing now?
The first 2. 2 and 3.
Oh.
2 and 3. Natalia, if you're going to practice violin, I'm going to send you over to the practice room, the bar practice room over there.
Is it unlocked?
Mr. Watson back there will unlock.
Mr. Watson.
Your normal one.
Oh, yeah, I got it.
2 and 3, and then we're going to check them. 2 and 3, and then we're going to check them. How many of you are done with number 2? How many of you are done with number 3? How many of you still working? Okay, give about another 30 seconds. Done with 2 and 3. Bass clef on the back side will be part of your homework. You're going to go ahead and start working on it. Ladies, you know that bass clef on the back is going to be part of your homework. You'd like to start working on it. Anybody else need more time on the front? Okay, let's go through. Pause your homework, please. Pause. Everyone flip back to that front side for me. Everyone flip back to that front side. Thank you so much. Flip back to that front side. I'll give you a little bit of time at the end to see if you can crank out the rest of them. Okay? So on the front hand side, you should have 5 bass clefs for number 1. Number 2 should read. You should have a bass clef first, with the 2 dots, of course. Going across, F, C, D, G, A, E, B, G, A, E. I'll read that one more time. F, C, D, G, A, E, B, G, A, E. How many of you got 3/4 of them right, or better? Okay. Going across the bottom now, we gotta add these notes in. What did you draw first, of course? That's a treble clef? Bass clef, there we go. You really are sleeping today, my goodness. Okay, so bass clef, we wanna draw an F. Now, some of these you can draw in 2 locations because the pattern repeats, right? So I'm gonna draw both locations for you, one or the other, doesn't matter, okay? So you can draw F on that line, or you could draw F down here. G or G. A or A. D, or I suppose you could have put D down here, or D up here, if you want to get crazy. F, C, or if you're crazy, did you get crazy down here? Anyone? No? Okay, good. B, either place, G, either place, B, either place, D, either place, and E. Did I add one in? Oopsies. 2 for the price of 1, I guess. Add a bonus. Okay? How many of you got 80% or better on that one? Good. Did you make sure that you drew all of your notes in the lines and spaces appropriately?
Yeah.
Wonderful. Okay. Can you go ahead and flip to the grand staff for me, please? Grace Gray, all your questions are about to be answered.
Yay!
Okay. So when we talk piano, guys, when we talk piano and the notes on the piano, they all follow the same patterns too. Oh, I see a lot at the tops of the heads. I need eyeballs. Eyeballs. The notes on the piano also follow the same pattern. C, D, E, F, G,
A.
B, C, and so forth. Just like that. The white keys. The white keys on the piano follow the exact same pattern. So when we combine the treble clef and the bass clef together, we get something called the grand staff. So across the top here, the grand staff represents the treble and bass staff joined together. The brace is a curved line and bar line that combines the treble and the bass staff together. A ledger line is a small line added to the note when it is either above or below the staff. Middle C note is on the ledger line that is between the treble and the bass. Okay, so borrow me your eyes for just a second here. Borrow me your eyes. Borrow me your eyes. Pause, 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 pause your pencils. Okay, so when we add these 2 together, they work together. When we're drawing a grand staff, and we put them all together, how many lines are on the staff?
Well, there's 5.
5. 1, 2, 3, 4,
Oh,
5. That's for our
trouble.
treble clef. Then we have to have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 for our bass clef. Now we're going to connect these 2 together with a bar line and a brace. Now, when we draw these braces, it reminds me of, like, you know, when you're drawing a picture and you're little and your teacher's teaching you about horizon line and perspective, and you draw the birds, and the one bird is real close up, and the other one. You remember that?
Yes, I can
I hope your
jot
art
it down.
teachers did that for you. Okay, so when you draw this brace over here, I always like to add a little sound effect to it so I remember how to draw it. I go, so, caw, caw, just like that. So you remember how to draw it. So you start it, wiggle to the right, to the left, connect. Then opposite, wiggle to the right, to the left, connect. Okay, so when you are looking at this, please, look at number 1 for me. You're going to trace the grand staff that is there. And then number 2, you are going to add those things there. So you have the 5 lines, 5, 5, 5, 5, 5, and you want to connect it all together. So you need a bar line at the very, very beginning. You need a bar line at the very, very end, and then you need to add the little bird. You start just to the left, caw, caw, every time. It's going to happen every time, people. It's just how it is. You can ask every other class. I've done this for 6 years now. I caw every time I drive. It's the only way that I can remember how to do it, and then I never forget. So then once I got the brace on there, I go ahead and add my treble clef, line down, little hook, wiggle to the right, wiggle to the left, wiggle to the right, curly Q. Then my bass clef, circle, around and down, dot, dot. And I have my grand staff. And it's grand.
I feel so bad if I ever have to put music.
Go ahead and do number 1 and number 2 right now. Keep working on number 1 and number 2. Now I want to see pretty grand staffs. I don't want to see grand staffs that are ungo.
I'll go.
Yeah, so I don't want to see like this. That's not a grand staff.
You got it look like a bird.
You have to caw. Caw.
My college is
Ah.
You don't want
Well, none of your cacaws will be quite as good as mine, but something for you to aspire to.
my Jeep like it's she on the other side of the She probably just pushed on.
Oh. Now, as you're working on these, guys, this is the cool part because we're going to actually connect all these patterns together. We're going to connect all the patterns together. So now that we have our grand staff, we have our treble clef, we have our bass clef, all these patterns are going to start to make a little bit more sense in a hot second here. So when we start with the lines, on the bass clef, what's our first line? Bass clef, bottom line.
I don't know.
Good, boys, do, fine, always, it's G, okay? So G on the line, space, A, line, space, line, space, line, F, space, line. Okay, flip to the treble clef. Every good boy does fine. Okay, so line is E, space, F, line, space, line, B, space, C, line, D, space, line. Okay.
G.
Now remember, we always have to follow our pattern, right? Shh. We always have to follow our pattern. So 1 before E, this space would be a what?
D.
D.
Study.
This line
C.
would be a C, okay? I need your eyeballs. This is an important part. Up here, up here, up here, up here,
They changed.
okay? When we keep going 1 after on the space and the bass clef, that would be a B. If we go the next line, that would be a
C.
These 2 notes are the same note.
Witchcraft.
No, I
Middle
didn't.
C.
That's why I was asking about middle C.
Those 2 notes are the same note. Now, can you go higher on the bass clef and add ledger lines that we
Yeah.
sort of talked about?
It's a lot of work.
Yeah, but it's all these notes up here. Can you go below the treble clef and add more lines? Yeah, but it's all these notes down here, okay? So that is our connecting point. That is our connecting point. Number 3, I want you to circle. Number 3 is your assignment for next time,
I thought it was this.
okay? Then on the very, very back hand side, there is a side about ledger lines. I want you to go ahead and do that for next time too. That one we're going to talk about in class, but I want you to do number 3 on the grand staff and the back side of ledger lines, and
Zuckerberg got it.
you got it.
I have
Yep. This we're gonna go through next time. We're gonna start with this next time, but I want you to come with it done.
Tuesday.
Yes, ma'am. Super, super high. I know, it's crazy. Yes, ma'am.
Okay, on the Bass Clef worksheet, what happens after for the lines after A? Does it repeat? But then there's another A as a space, so then if I put another A as a space, it's an AA.
I'm gonna have to look at that. Don't run away, let me look at that. Any other questions on the assignment for next time? So what are you doing? Complete the packet. You come with it done. We're gonna go, sitting is hard, I guess. We're gonna go through the ledger lines part. That's what we're gonna start with next week. When do I see you next?
Tuesday.
Tuesday. Do you have that written down in your assignment notebooks?
Tuesday.
Complete the packet because it's not on Google Classroom.
Have him know.
Not on Google Classroom this time. You gotta complete the packets.
Okay.
Yes.
My turn. It's just.
I'll come answer it. Just pump the brakes over there. Any other questions? Okay, that's all you have. If you want to keep working on it, the bell should ring here in about 30 seconds or so.